Right now on Morning News Now, back to the White House this morning. President-elect Trump set to meet with President Biden in his first visit to Washington since his re-election. This as Mr. Trump makes more controversial cabinet picks to fill out his new administration. And on Capitol Hill, Republicans celebrating control of the Senate while the fate of the House still hangs in the balance.
We flipped blue seats to red as we planned, and we kept this majority. Republicans in the House and Senate have a mandate. It's true. It was a decisive win across the nation.
Also today, Senate Republicans meeting to select a replacement for Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Our team is tracking the transition from the White House to the Capitol. Developing this morning, a deadly plant explosion prompting a shelter-in-place order in Kentucky. We'll take you to Louisville for the latest. And emergency in the Northeast, crews struggling to contain a series of wind-fueled wildfires. Now tens of millions of people are waking up to red flag warnings. More on the conditions, the risks, and what to expect where you live. And you are what you drink. It turns out your favorite beverage could reveal a lot about the way you eat. The new research that shows not all alcohol is created equal. I'm sure that's a whole lot of good news.
Or perhaps bad news, depending on what you drink.
Yeah, exactly. Always something.
Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to begin this Wednesday morning with an important day ahead for the Trump transition.
President-elect Trump is set to meet with President Biden at the White House today. It will be their first face-to-face meeting since their debate back in June. It'll also be the first time that Mr. Trump is back in the Oval Office since the end of his first term in early 2021. There was no such handoff meeting from Biden to Trump in 2020 when Mr. Trump disputed the election results. Ahead of today's big meeting, the president-elect announced new picks to fill other senior roles in his upcoming administration. Mr. Trump named tech billionaire Elon Musk and conservative activist Vivek Ramaswamy to head up a Department of Government Efficiency, which has yet to be created. He made the announcement yesterday on social media, fulfilling a campaign pledge to give Musk oversight of government spending.
President-elect Trump also named Fox News host and military veteran Pete Hegseth as his choice for defense secretary. Mr. Trump says that with Hegseth as his pick, America's enemies are, quote, on notice.
For the latest on the Trump transition, we're joined by NBC News correspondent Dasha Burns and NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba. Good morning to both of you. So, Dasha, let's begin with you and these new picks by President-elect Trump to join the administration. Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, they're being tasked with taking a look at government spending. A lot of people have heard of them, but Mr. Trump's choice for defense secretary, not so well known. And so far, it seems is the pick drawing the most backlash. Walk us through all this and the reaction to these picks.
Oh, my friends, good morning. There is just so much to unpack here as these picks are coming fast and furious. Let me start quickly with the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, as they're calling it, which is a meme and cryptocurrency reference and could mean that Ramaswamy and Musk have the power to potentially essentially dismantle the government bureaucracy. It's something that Ramaswamy campaigned on. They're talking about slashing government spending by up to $2 trillion. The question is, how much does that impact critical programs like Medicare, like Social Security, like the defense budget? The second piece, Pete Hegseth, that is also drawing some backlash. He is a Fox News host and commentator. Yes, he served in the military, but he does not have any government experience, and that is concerning to defense experts and people who have served in the government for a long time, given how critical that position is. He also holds some views that people find controversial. He has said, for example, that he doesn't believe women should serve in the military. He is Trump's guy to go after wokeism in the military, which is another thing that President-elect Trump campaigned on. So these are consequential choices that are unexpected and non-traditional that could have a big impact, guys.
Dasha, also President-elect Trump named former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee as his pick for U.S. ambassador to Israel. Now, if confirmed, he'd be the first non-Jewish person to hold the role in more than a decade. What role is he expected to play, and how much of an impact could he have there?
So Huckabee is a self-described Zionist. He is a staunch supporter of Israel. He has advocated for a one-state solution, which is a departure from U.S. policy and position. And he is likely to play a very active role given everything that we know that I'm sure you'll talk about later in the show that's going on in the Middle East and the war between Israel and Hamas, guys.
Monica, let's bring you in and talk about today's big meeting at the White House between Mr. Trump and President Biden. What can we expect in Trump's first visit to the White House in nearly 4 years?
Yeah, and really before 4 years ago, this was a really common tradition. This is something that outgoing presidents normally would invite the winners of the election to come visit the White House, to sit down in the Oval Office. We, of course, saw it with then President Obama inviting then President-elect Trump 8 years ago, but then that didn't take place in 2020. So today will be fascinating because of the dynamics of the people who were in this meeting. Of course, it was President Biden, who was the nominee up until 3 months ago, who was facing off with Donald Trump. And it was also Joe Biden, who was coming into office last time, but wasn't extended this courtesy. So we know the two are expected to sit down. We'll see how long the meeting is. Back when Obama and Trump met, it lasted more than 90 minutes. Then President Obama called it an excellent discussion that was wide-ranging. And then the two briefly spoke, and that was that. Now, there are a couple other elements to this that last time we can draw upon to see if they're going to take place. But for instance, today, former First Lady Melania Trump is not expected to accompany her husband and sit down with current First Lady Jill Biden. Now, that's something we're told that the invitation was extended to her, but maybe that will happen down the line. We shouldn't expect to see that today. And then secondly, Vice President Harris, of course, lost the election to Donald Trump, but she's still the sitting vice president. So normally she would extend an invitation to the vice president-elect. So in this case, Senator J.D. Vance, to come for a meeting, to visit the Naval Observatory where the Vances will be living come January. And that hasn't happened yet. So many layers, so much complexity to everything that happened in the election and now what's happening. But the priority for the Biden administration is to really emphasize this peaceful transfer of power. And that's what they're going to try to put on display, to try to really pledge to have a smooth transition in these last 60 or so days.
And in those last 60 or so days, Monica, what are the top priorities for the president and his administration in the time he has left?
And we know that there are going to be things from legislation that they pass that they're going to try to implement. They're going to try to shore up some final commitments from private companies when it comes to things like manufacturing or infrastructure, things that they want to make sure are pretty much put in place before the Trump administration returns. And then there are things like making sure that all of the funding that was allocated to Ukraine gets out the door. That's something else that they're going to be prioritizing. And there's really this emphasis on trying to, quote, Trump-proof and safeguard some of these policies and programs that they know once Donald Trump returns to the White House could be undone given their very differing views on a lot of key policy issues. Savannah and Joe.
Dasha and Monica, thank you both.
Well, Senate Republicans will gather behind closed doors today on Capitol Hill to select a replacement for Mitch McConnell as Senate Majority Leader. Here's who's in the running. South Dakota Senator John Thune, Texas Senator John Cornyn, and Florida Senator Rick Scott. All three are vying to win votes in the secret ballot election, as well as the favor of President-elect Donald Trump.
The choice to replace longtime leader McConnell could shape the future of the Senate and the GOP party under a Trump presidency. At this hour, control of the House still hangs in the balance, with Republicans holding the lead over Democrats. Whichever party reaches 218 House seats will win the majority. That's a number the GOP might reach as soon as today.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale joins us with more. Ali, good morning. So tell us more about which senators are in the running for Majority Leader. We just listed them. Tell us a little bit about each and how they're trying to appeal to their colleagues and the president-elect.
Hey guys, good morning. Some really fascinating dynamics that we're about to see play out on Capitol Hill today, in large part because Republicans haven't had to elect a new leader in nearly 20 years. McConnell has been sort of the gatekeeper to this conference for the last 18 years, and we've seen the role that he's played at various times, especially in the Trump era. McConnell is no fan of the former president. The president-elect himself has spared no shortage of negative words and phrases for for the leader himself. But now he's got 3 people who are vying to replace him, and they each cut very different profiles, both when you look through the Trump lens, but when you also look through the lens of how the Senate is going to operate. For example, John Thune has been McConnell's number 2 for several years now. He's studied at the feet of one of the greatest procedural tacticians in Senate history. That's something that could really come in handy, especially as Republicans try to leverage the full force and power of holding the majority of both chambers in this upcoming 2-year period. Thune is widely seen, guys, as the favorite here, but in large part because Cornyn could peel off some of that more quote unquote establishment Republican vote. Rick Scott's challenge here presents an interesting one, in part because he challenged McConnell a few years ago. The last time he only got about 10 or 11 votes at that point, but it's a reminder of the growing pro-MAGA faction within the Senate Republican ranks that could be something that ends up being in Scott's favor. Trump at this point is staying out of it. That's what Thune and Cornyn both prefer. But at the same time, Scott has really been trying to leverage his pro-Trumpness and his consistent pro-Trumpness to try to bring people to his cause. Remember, both Thune and Cornyn have cut against Trump at various times. They've mended fences, but this is going to be the true test of that.
So, Allie, that this is happening behind closed doors could be a factor here. Of the 3 candidates you mentioned, is there a front runner?
The frontrunner, I think, technically is John Thune, but the Senate is unpredictable. Maybe a little bit less lately because the House has been overshadowing it these last few years. But this is a real moment where we could see some kind of a shakeup. This is a secret ballot, so as of right now, we're going into it expecting that we're not going to know who votes for who. There are some senators who are absolutely fine to keep it that way, but there is going to be a motion at some point to basically open this process up. Hey, do we want to make it transparent? Do we want to make our votes public? That, ironically, will also be done by a secret ballot vote. So if they decide to change the rules, we'll get a lot more insight into this. If they don't, then it's going to go forward the way we think it is, which is secret ballot. And whoever makes it to the magic number of 27 on this side of the chamber in this case is the one who becomes the new leader of this party on the Senate side.
And Allie, now let's talk the House side. So we're still waiting to see which party ultimately has that majority. Remind us the current balance of power, where that stands, which races we are waiting for, and any indication how they might go.
Well, you guys are right to point out that everyone's trying to count on the House side to the magic number of 218. Republicans right now, I believe by our count, are right almost there at 217, which is why we believe we could be getting close to seeing this balance of power called. There's a few outstanding races, specifically those in California, but Democrats are happy to say that they've been able to notch a few wins, at least in terms of candidates declaring victory, in places like California's 47th. That's them hanging on to a district that was already held by a Democrat. They needed that. Right now, in my conversations, Republicans are very much operating like they have the majority. They're also going behind closed doors today for a much less sexy and less palace intrigue vote of will they keep Mike Johnson as speaker. We expect that he'll be fine, but his true test comes later in January. Instead, for Republicans, they're sort of forging ahead. And my conversations with Democratic sources are, look at what we've gained. The majority is going to be a very slim one. And they think that they can find some inroads and some real chances to play opposition to Trump and Republicans in this coming Congress.
All right, Allie Vitale, thank you so much.
World leaders are gathering in Azerbaijan for the COP29 climate conference. Their goal, rein in carbon emissions in the burning of fossil fuels.
For more on this, NBC News correspondent Maura Barrett joins us. Maura, good morning. So first off, oil and gas, they account for about half of the host country, Azerbaijan's exports. Talk to us about the goals of this climate conference, what we've seen so far, and how that fact is playing in.
Well, guys, the irony is not lost that this COP is hosted, and last COP, frankly, in a really heavy export country. And that's why we're seeing a lot of tension on the ground. I think it's also important to note that the United States is the #1 export of oil and gas. And so that's something that's going to come up in conversation as well. But there's tension on the ground at the conference, especially between rich countries and developing countries. Many who blame the wealthy for not doing enough, they say, to take credit or to find solutions for what they caused, essentially. And so that's why a big goal of this climate summit is ultimately around climate finance. They're looking to fund hundreds of billions of dollars to make that switch towards clean energy, phase out fossil fuels, but then also boost the ongoing pledge, part of the Paris Agreement, to triple renewable energy by 2030 to keep warming under 1.5 degrees. Now, the big headline that we're looking at right now, the UK announced new ambitions to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 81%, and that's by 2035. And so there's still lots more to watch in the 2 weeks ahead, but this is just the early days of the conference so far, guys.
And one big headline is that President Biden isn't there. Can you talk about why he's not there and just what his administration is hoping to achieve in this final conference before the Trump administration takes over, with obviously very different theories on climate change?
Right, exactly. And I think, as you noted, President Biden has a very famous guest coming to the White House today, so he's a little busy on that front. But his team is really head down, making sure that they can get in a lot of extra work in their final moments of the Biden administration. That's why we saw his climate team representing the U.S. abroad. I was actually able to speak with the White House National Climate Advisor, Ali Zaidi, overnight, and that final sprint is something he touched on in our conversation.
We're going to be sprinting through the tape, whether it's the 2 weeks of this COP or the 2 months ahead. We're going to be making sure that the most Americans, the breadth of our economy, can benefit from the impact of the president's investment agenda into clean energy. The federal government has come in like boosters on a rocket. The rocket is the private sector. And I think on a lot of the transformation that we seek, we have already achieved escape velocity, and the American people will benefit from that in the years ahead.
That interview happening in the late overnight hours because Azerbaijan is 9 hours ahead of us, so they are busy in their work for the day. But Zaidi also previewed work that they're looking to get done in the next few months around expanding nuclear, continuing to bring down methane emissions. And something that he noted in our conversation is the fact that he thinks the climate policies that he and the Biden administration enacted is built to outlast the next 4 years. He said it's not something that can be eliminated in one election or another administration.
All right, Maura, thank you so much.
Thanks for doing that overnight interview for us also. Well, now to the wildfires that continue to threaten the Northeast. Today, millions of people are under red flag warnings as 9 fires burn across the region.
The high winds and dry conditions are making it harder for firefighters to gain control of what's known as the Jennings Creek fire. It has grown more than 5,000 acres to more than 5,000 acres along the New Jersey-New York border. The area has not seen a good amount of rain in weeks, and concerns are growing about the water supply.
NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa joins us now from Monmouth County, New Jersey. Emily, good morning. So tell us a little bit about where you are, what you're seeing. I know there's a reservoir behind you there. How do these things look compared to normal?
Hey there, guys. Well, I can tell you this is not typically what the Manasquan Reservoir looks like. It's hard to recognize. Typically, this is a place popular for boating. It's popular for fishing. But where I'm walking right now, I shouldn't be able to, because this is about 50%. It's about half of its total for some billion-gallon capacity. And it's scenes like this that are plaguing the entire region, the Northeast, which is experiencing its worst drought since 2002. Here in New Jersey, it saw its driest October on record. There are parts of the Garden State that are actually experiencing an 8-inch deficit in rainfall. And so we're what is average for this time of year. And we're seeing that impact people in different ways. Some farmers, like cranberry farmers, they can't flood their bogs with waterways and reservoirs. They have to pump water from deep underground. Other farmers have to truck feed in for their animals because there hasn't been enough rain to grow grass on the ground. It's why the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection and state officials today are considering upgrading from a water supply drought watch to a warning that could reallocate water sources throughout the state. It also could urge people to limit their water usage. As you can see, it is a strange, unusual, and dire situation, guys.
So, Emily, just where do things stand with fires right now in the Northeast? What areas are most at risk?
So I'll start with the good news. We are seeing some relief from those strong wind gusts we saw yesterday. Yesterday, red flag warnings had impacted more than 30 million people, gusts topping 30 miles an hour. The big concern with that is that it picks up embers, it picks up the flames and spreads the fire at a more rapid pace. We're seeing those numbers come down a little bit today, but firefighters are still contending with really some impressive challenges. You look at one of the largest fires, the Jennings Creek fire just north of here. It stretches more than 5,000 acres between from North Jersey into New York, and they're having to deal with steep terrain. So it's largely a fire fought on foot, also by air. They're using helicopters to drop water across that fire, continuing in the firefight. But a major concern moving forward, there is no rain in sight, which means they are continuing to have high elevated wildfire risk concerns because of the dry conditions that are fueling the fires. Just to give you a sense of how unusual this is for New York, you look at the Jennings Creek fire alone. It's burned some 2,700 acres so far. That is nearly double the amount of acreage that is burned for the entire state for the entire year, guys.
Wow. Emily Aketa, some startling facts there. Thank you so much.
For more on these fire alerts and the dry conditions, let's get a check at your Morning News Now weather.
Angie Lastman's here with that. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Emily mentioned not a whole lot in the way of relief as far as rain is concerned, but those winds have come down slightly, but not enough to completely eliminate some of those alerts that we see up and down parts of the Northeast. Stretching from Georgetown to Boston, we've got the fire alerts. The elevated fire risk is in the orange, where you see that red flag warning. That's the brighter pink colors. We still, of course, have the dry vegetation. You just heard Emily talking a lot about it. The humidity remains low, and those winds are going to be not quite as gusty as yesterday, but they'll still be something that we'll potentially have to contend with through the day today. When it comes to rain, we do have some rain that's going to help alleviate some droughts in other places. So the Midwest, the Mid-Atlantic, you're going to see some rain. And this system is what's going to be on the move here over the next couple of days to bring that rain. Those locally heavy downpours stretching from the Midwest down to the Mississippi Valley as this system continues to work its way to the east through the day today. By tomorrow, here comes the rain for the Mid-Atlantic. But notice what happens. Essentially, New York and points north of that left out of picking up any of that really much needed rain. So we won't see the drought relief for that region, but we will, of course, from the Midwest to the Mid-Atlantic. That's going to help for folks there. Where we're concerned, though, as far as the flooding, that's going to be a today and tonight kind of potential for the time frame on that. We could see anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of rain in a short period of time. So any of that really saturated soil from recent rain, especially across the Mississippi Valley, is going to be problematic for folks. Jackson, Alexandria, that's where I'd really watch for the better chance of some of this flooding to occur as the day and evening goes on. Out west, a very different story. Plenty of rain, plenty of snow on tap. We've got those winter alerts up and down parts of California, the Sierra and Cascade ranges. Those are going to pick up some of that additional snow and rain over the next couple of days. We'll watch for the flooding concern near burn scar areas out west, but for the most part, this is going to make it difficult when it comes to travel. We'll also see some additional wind associated with this, and this will be something that we watch through the next couple of days. And as if that wasn't enough to keep track of, we've also got an area of disturbed weather that we're watching in the Caribbean Sea. Hurricane season not over yet. We've got a good chance that this is going to develop. Honestly, it will develop the next day or two. What happens beyond that is going to be something that we're going to keep a close eye on. We've got really warm waters. We've got low shear. That all means that these conditions are perfect for this system to eventually develop and strengthen significantly. Here's what happens, though. Over the short term, really through this weekend, high pressure sits in the Gulf of Mexico. That's going to kind of block it from moving anywhere near the United States. That eventually moves out of the picture, though, and we could see that low shift into the Gulf of Mexico by early next week, guys. Then we'll watch for what it could potentially mean for the Gulf Coast of the United States.
What does low shear mean?
Basically, shear is what inhibits, it's one of the things that inhibits strengthening from these systems. Okay. So when you have a high shear, it's changes of wind speed as you go up in the atmosphere. That knocks it down. So when you have low shear, the environment is really good. You have the fuel from the warm water. You don't have anything stopping it essentially from strengthening, which is kind of the environment that's going to sit in for the next couple of days. Not what we want to see late November, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I love learning weather things. Thank you.
You got it.
Well, in Kentucky, a large explosion at a plant near downtown Louisville killed at least 2 people and injured several others on Tuesday.
Officials said some suffered life-threatening injuries. The blast happened around 3 p.m. local time at a company that makes natural food coloring. It prompted a shelter-in-place order for the surrounding area.
NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa joins us live from Louisville with the latest. Maggie, good morning. What do we know at this point about the cause and what's being done to figure out why it happened?
Yeah, guys, good morning. The cause remains a mystery of this explosion, which, by the way, we're about a block from where this happened. So we're going to push in really quick and just show you kind of the drama factor of this wreckage. It's really striking when you see it up close. We're told homes near us and, frankly, within a mile of here shook when this happened. But again, everybody knows how massive this was. No one knows right now exactly how this happened. Louisville Fire, as I step back in here, are leading this investigation this morning with state and federal partners. And we're told that includes a federal reconstruction team. from alcohol, tobacco, firearms. And that being said, we expect a press conference from local leaders and an update later on this morning. But for now, everybody's just kind of cleaning up the damage, cleaning up the debris and taking in the scope of the damage. And I should point out what you're looking at right now is video caught on a sky camera of the explosion happening. You can see how massive it was and understand, guys, why this scared so many people in this city.
No kidding. And Maggie, it has been reported this isn't the first time we've seen an explosion at this location. What have you learned about that?
Right. So this company is called Givaudan Sense Color, and it's a big factory, big plant here in the Louisville area. And we found a federal report that shows back in 2003, there was another explosion that killed one person. And according to that report, that explosion was deemed avoidable. So our teams are still kind of combing through that. And again, we don't want to jump to any conclusions that 20 years later, you know, there are any commonalities between why this happened and why that one happened. But of course, it's fresh on the minds. Who could forget that of people here in the Louisville area? And now nationally, we're kind of connecting these dots as federal authorities zero in on this. This is a statement from the company. We want to read this here. They say our priority right now is on our team members, the families of those we have lost, and those that were injured in this accident. They went on to say they're in touch with them, they're working with the investigation, and they're deeply saddened by this, guys.
Maggie, what is next in the investigation? And before we let you go, also tell us what we know about those who were hurt.
We know that close to a dozen people were hurt, and 2 of them are in critical condition at a local hospital. The 2 deaths, actually, guys, were an update overnight. We were hoping, of course, who wouldn't, that nobody would pass away from this. We had heard that close to a dozen were injured last night, but we knew that some of those injuries were serious. So, again, the deaths coming in the overnight hours. Right now, we're not being told names, ages, anything like that, but the company is confirming that the 2 who passed away were team members at that company. As far as what's next, it's really just kind of those federal authorities, those federal resources swooping in here on Louisville. We can hear helicopters overhead as all the attention is on this site and this neighborhood. Again, ATF, state, and local authorities all over this at this hour.
Maggie Vespa, thank you so much.
Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, a new fight over reproductive rights in America. 4 women taking the state of Idaho to court over laws they say are unclear and unsafe. We're going to break down the case that could have nationwide implications.
But first, after the break, Amsterdam on edge in the wake of those violent protests and a string of anti-Semitic attacks. We'll be right back.
We are back with the latest from Amsterdam. 3 people were arrested by Dutch police yesterday after a city tram was vandalized and a police vehicle set on fire in an anti-Semitic attack. Rioters threw stones at the tram and at police officers who were trying to make an arrest Monday night. This follows last week's violence surrounding the Israeli-Amsterdam soccer game. The Dutch city remains under a no protest order. NBC News international correspondent Claudio Lavonga has the latest.
Dozens of people smashed the windows of this tram, setting off fireworks on board, while some of them screamed, "Cancer Jews," in Dutch. The tram, which was empty at the time of the attack, left shuttered and charred. Dutch authorities say 3 people were detained in connection to the attack. The unrest coming just days after an attack on Israeli soccer fans who were in the city for a match between Amsterdam's Ajax and Maccabi Tel Aviv last week.
I got a punch in my face, in my lip. It was organized.
After the match, Dutch officials say people on scooters sought out Israelis, punching them and kicking them.
What we've seen this weekend of the anti-Semitic attacks against Israelis and Jews are nothing short of shocking and reprehensible.
On Monday, the city's police chief said there had been incidents on both sides, starting the day before the game. Israeli fans seen on video chanting "Death to Arabs." Ole, ole. And this Palestinian flag was ripped down. Authorities saying Israeli fans were also seen walking towards the city's red light district. They say some had taken off their belts and attacked a taxi. Other taxis were also vandalized. According to Amsterdam's mayor, 62 people were arrested in connection to the violence surrounding the game, including 10 Israeli citizens. In a letter to the city council, the mayor calling the attacks a toxic cocktail of anti-Semitism, football hooliganism, and anger over the war in Palestine and Israel and other parts of the Middle East. The capital city remains under strict emergency orders, with protests banned until Thursday. Police detaining those who defy the order as the city remains on edge. Claudio Lavanga, NBC News.
Well, let's get to the latest now in the Middle East. A new round of Israeli airstrikes have killed dozens in both the Gaza Strip and Lebanon.
NBC's Matt Bodner has more on that and some other world headlines. Matt, good morning.
Joe, Savannah, good morning. Israeli strikes continue in Gaza and Lebanon, and over the past day, 46 were killed in Gaza and 33 in strikes across Lebanon. One Israeli strike in Gaza targeted a makeshift cafeteria in an Israeli-designated humanitarian zone. This all comes as the United States says that it will not alter its policy of arms transfers to Israel, claiming that the Israeli government has made some progress on demands to allow more aid into Gaza. That said, the British Red Cross says that Gaza is still only receiving 6% of its pre-war levels of aid. Moving along now to Russia, where a 68-year-old pediatrician has been sentenced to 5 years in jail for allegedly slandering a Russian soldier who died in Ukraine. The doctor's name is Nadezhda Buyanova, and she was reported to the authorities by the mother of a 7-year-old boy that she was treating. The mother alleges that Buyanova made negative comments about the boy's father, who had been killed in the war. No video or audio evidence exists of this comment, and Buyanova has denied the charges. We'll wrap up this hour in Australia, where a study conducted by Australian scientists suggests that LED lighting strips could be used to deter shark attacks on surfers. They say that the lights distort the silhouette of a surfboard on the ocean surface and essentially limit the ability of a great white shark to see them against the sunlight. Sharks generally attack surfers because they sometimes mistake their silhouette for the outline of a seal. They are now working on a prototype lighting strip to test on surfboards and kayaks. Back to you guys.
I'm trying to imagine Jaws with that plot twist. Like,
the LED lights will save us.
Need a bigger light.
Thank you, Matt. Coming up, the fight for reproductive rights heading to a courtroom in Idaho this morning. When we come back, we'll break down the case that could impact abortion laws beyond state lines.
Plus, home is where the heart is. The new research linking where you live and your heart health. Dr. Azar is in with your weekly checkup next on Morning News Now. We're back with an update on the legal battle over Louisiana's 10 Commandments law, which requires posting the religious directives in every public school in the state. A federal judge blocked the law yesterday, calling it unconstitutional. It was set to take effect on January 1st. Back in June, the state's governor signed a GOP-backed bill that would require all public kindergarten through 12th grade schools and colleges to post the commandments in every classroom. Critics said it violated the First Amendment by forcing children to acknowledge or exercise a specific religion. The state's Republican Attorney General says she will appeal the ruling immediately.
Well, 4 women who needed abortions are now suing the state of Idaho over its strict abortion law, and they gave emotional testimony in a long-awaited trial over reproductive rights. The women and 2 doctors have sued the state, alleging that Idaho's abortion laws are unclear. That means they're potentially dangerous to pregnant women.
All 4 women were denied abortions after they found out their pregnancies were not viable. They say they were forced to travel out of state, putting their health and safety at risk and turning them into what they called medical refugees. Right now, the state's law makes no exceptions for fetal abnormalities.
NBC News Now legal analyst Angela Sanadella joins us with more. Angela, good morning. So these women, they were all determined to have this dangerous complications that put ultimately their own lives in danger, but they are not seeking to overturn the state's abortion ban. What legal relief are they after for patients and doctors?
Yeah, good morning, Savannah and Joe. So right now, as the law stands in Idaho, performing an abortion is a felony, punishable by up to 2 to 5 years in prison with extremely limited exceptions. Now, the only real medical exception that applies is if the abortion is necessary to prevent the death of the pregnant mother. Now, at this point, what these women are asking for is if that medical exception can both be clarified and expanded to include 3 very explicit exceptions. First, if the pregnant person has a medical complication that could render the pregnancy unsafe. Second, if the pregnant person has an underlying medical condition that could worsen with the pregnancy. And then third, if the fetus is likely unviable, meaning that more likely than not, the fetus would not survive both the birth or the pregnancy. So that is what they're asking for. They're asking for the court to declare in the state of Idaho that in these 3 examples, an abortion would be legal.
Angela, I mean, these women are telling some very difficult stories. One woman says she had to travel to Portland, Oregon to get an abortion, but before she could, she went into labor at a hotel while her 2-year-old daughter was in the next room. What is the case these plaintiffs have to make to try and win here?
Okay, so look, legislators can make any law and pass it so long as it doesn't conflict with the Constitution. That's when the courts step in. So what they have to prove here is that there is a constitutional violation. Now, obviously, that is tricky because there is no abortion access constitutional amendment in Idaho. So what they are arguing is that these women have an inalienable right, as written into the Constitution, to do things like enjoy and defend life, to pursue happiness, to secure safety, and that because these are rights not just of a fetus but of these women, that if it is possible, not getting an abortion could cause great harm and prevent these things, then this law as it stands could not be constitutional. So that is what they are arguing. That's what they have to prove in front of the court.
And what is the state's argument, on the other hand, here, to leave the law in place as it stands?
Right. So they are arguing that they have to protect multiple parties here, including the unborn fetus. And they are also saying that this medical exception does cover women if they are on the brink of death. Now, obviously, doctors have said there is no medical standard, though, of just preventing death, that doctors are trained to protect the health of patients, to prevent harm overall. They are also saying that the plaintiffs are asking to cover scenarios they believe are outrageous, like, for example, one they have given is if a pregnant person steps on a rusty nail, that then could give them access to an abortion, they claim, under what the plaintiffs are arguing. Obviously, the plaintiffs don't agree with that.
Angela, thank you so much.
Let's get to your weekly medical checkup, starting with a sharp rise in heart disease-related deaths in one particular group of young adults.
Plus, also, how to make the biggest difference if someone you're with goes into cardiac arrest.
NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar is here to help us get into all that and a little bit more. All right, so we've got this report mentioned. Researchers say cardiovascular disease-related deaths up around a fifth for young people living in rural areas. Do we know why that might be?
So this is really interesting because we've kind of known for some time that there is this disparity between people who live in rural areas versus urban areas. And what they were interested in looking at was specifically a time period between 2010 and 2022. And what they found was that the rates of cardiovascular death increased by about 21% in people living in rural areas, as opposed to only 3% in people who were living in urban areas. And this is 22, remember, 2022 is not right around, it was the middle of the pandemic, which seemed to really exacerbate this disparity. So the authors are saying basically, what are the explanations for this? Healthcare coverage, access to healthcare, and affordability. So my doctor's orders are this. If you are somewhere in the middle of the country, especially in a rural area, this study really does point to an increased risk of heart disease for you. You need to know your risk factors, and you need to talk to your doctor about getting screened, because early intervention and managing those risk factors can dramatically reduce the risk of death.
We love news you can use. That is that. And also this next one, what is this advice here? Bystander advice for administering CPR if somebody seems like they're going into cardiac arrest, especially because I think a lot of people would be intimidated to jump in.
Yes. And this is, if this is such an important message that I want to get out. This is all about bystander CPR. This is not when the EMS comes and having a defibrillator and stuff. This is you see someone fall down. This is a teenager. This is a young adult. This is probably one of the most important things if you think time is heart muscle, which also equals brain function. And what this study looked at was that if you initiate CPR within 2 minutes of somebody collapsing, they have an 81% chance of leaving the hospital and surviving and having a good neurological outcome. Even 10 minutes, they have a more favorable neurological outcome than if you don't do anything. My doctor's orders are this. If you want to get CPR certified, of course, you don't want to dwell, you want to think fast. 2 things. 1, call 911 before you do anything. And the second thing is, you know, you mentioned people could be reluctant to start CPR with mouth to mouth. The American Heart Association absolutely endorses hands-only CPR. So for anyone who's out there, go to their website, any YouTube. It's not that difficult. You do not need to use mouth to mouth. Outcomes are the same or even sometimes better than doing that old-fashioned mouth to mouth. So anyone can do this, even kids. They looked at like 6th graders can do this too.
Whatever we can do to get more people certified.
Exactly.
All right, this last study suggests that your drink of choice can reveal something about your diet and maybe not a surprise. Not good news for beer drinkers.
I know. So this study was interested in looking at the quality.
So
listen to this
for me.
So this study was interested in looking at the quality of the diet and compared between beer drinkers, wine drinkers, liquor drinkers, and combo drinkers. And surprise, surprise, beer drinkers had the lowest quality diet.
Why is that not a surprise?
Well, I know that sounds so snooty, doesn't it? Well, I guess like where you drink influences what you're eating, right? So like, what are the kinds of foods that you usually associate with beer drinking?
Wings,
yeah,
nachos.
like high carb, low fiber. I guess that kind of bears out.
Call it a beer belly for a reason,
right?
Perhaps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my doctor's orders think about strategy and think about balance. If you love to eat, if you love, be strategic.
Are you saying if you just do a variety of alcohol,
it's like,
it might be better?
Yeah, so start drinking more alcohol of different types.
What is the strategy, though? What does that mean?
Your strategy is if you enjoy beer, you need to take a good hard look at what you're eating, my friend, and start to eat like fancy foods with beer.
There you go.
That's my doctor's order, everybody.
Salad and beer.
Yes.
There we go.
Get your beer strategy ready.
Dr. Azar, thank you. Appreciate it. Coming up, renewed uncertainty over education in America.
President-elect Donald Trump promising to end student loan forgiveness and get rid of the education department altogether. More on what his plans could mean for students across the country. That's next on Morning News Now. We are back now with a closer look at the future of the U.S. Department of Education under a second Trump administration. We're still waiting to learn who the new education secretary will be, but the president-elect made some bold promises on the campaign trail, including to get rid of the department altogether. He also pledged to dismantle President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan. NBC News national correspondent Yasmin Vasugian has the details.
A consistent theme at his rallies and in interviews.
They talked about the debt for student debt, and they failed on it.
President-elect Trump railing against President Biden for his plan to wipe out up to $20,000 in federal student loan debt per person, a move the White House said could have impacted 1 in every 6 adults, who collectively have $1.6 trillion in debt. But the Supreme Court blocked the sweeping policy. So the Biden administration pivoted to expanding a patchwork of programs already in place to cancel debt. One example, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, a Bush-era deal that forgives borrowers who go into certain public service jobs after 10 years of paying. Before President Biden, only 7,000 people wiped out loans under this program. Now, more than 1 million, according to his administration. In total, he says he's wiped out $175 billion for 4.8 million people. Experts do not expect a Trump White House to continue these programs, big or small.
I would expect that President Biden's pending regulatory loan forgiveness provisions will be dropped on the cutting room floor.
Trump's vice president-elect making the case that, in his words, forgiving student debt is a massive windfall to the rich. That claim, not so simple. The highest earners have the most debt, but even low-income students owe nearly $30,000 on average. Only about 40% of Americans think it's important for the federal government to provide student debt relief, according to an AP poll from May of this year, with a strong partisan split.
So President-elect Trump may not continue those Biden plans. Here's what he says he will do.
He's called for ending the entire Department of Education, as college campuses and even K-12 schools have become flashpoints in the nation's culture wars.
Department of Education, you say, what the hell do all these people do?
The department does not tell schools what to teach, but it provides funding for schools, oversees safety, and makes sure civil and disability rights laws are followed. Many Republicans argue the department's an example of government bloat and infringes on states' rights. He could slash funding and staffing, but he might end up keeping it to fulfill some of the party's goals.
Having a U.S. Department of Education allows them to pursue a lot of their own objectives.
Some of those: universal school choice, supporting homeschooling, opposing what they call critical race theory and gender indoctrination programs, and promoting curriculum that includes, quote, love of country. The Trump transition team telling us in part that voters gave him a, quote, mandate to implement the promises he made on the campaign trail. He will deliver.
Not all Republicans, but some have been calling for getting rid of the U.S. Department of Education for years and years. It's never happened. I don't think it's likely to happen.
And it wouldn't be easy without 60 votes in the Senate, as a new administration brings uncertainty to the future of education in America.
Our thanks to Yasmin Vasugian for that report. While the Department of Education provides billions in funding and programs to public schools, therefore it would likely have to be merged with another department. Trump tried to do this during his first term, but that failed.
Let's get some money news. Apple is looking to raise its IQ with some new smart home devices that are reportedly in the works.
NBC's Silvana Hanau has that and other headlines for us. Hey, Silvana, good morning.
Hey, Savannah. Hey, Joe. Good morning to you. Yes, so Apple is trying to play catch-up in the smart home market and is close to launching a new product, a wall-mounted display that can control appliances, handle video calls, and use AI to navigate apps. Bloomberg reports Apple could unveil the device as soon as March and will position it as a command center in your home. It will also spotlight the new Apple Intelligence AI platform. It would compete with Amazon's Echo Show and Echo Hub smart displays and Google's Nest Hub. Grubhub has a new owner. Just Eat Takeaway, Europe's largest food delivery services, is selling Grubhub to Wonder. That's a startup led by a former Walmart executive for $650 million. Just Eat has been looking to unload Grubhub since at least 2022 after buying it for more than $7 billion in 2020. But Grubhub has struggled, especially in New York City, where it's in a legal dispute with the city over limits on how much it can charge restaurants. And Amazon's Black Friday sales will kick off November 21st and run through the 29th. The company says deals include up to 55% off select Amazon devices, including Fire Smart TVs, and up to 50% off apparel from Levi's and clothing brands. Amazon Fresh also has a Thanksgiving meal deal with turkey, sides, and desserts to serve 6 for less than $5 per person, guys.
Just order it all at once. The meal, all your gifts,
everything.
it'll all just
I've got plenty of stuff in my car already.
I really need to pay attention to all these sale dates so I don't do everything at the last minute.
I feel like there will be a number of them in the coming weeks.
You'll get plenty of reminders, don't worry.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, keep them coming, Savannah. Thank you. Coming up, turning trash into treasure.
When we come back, how one artist is using scrap wood and a little elbow grease to make priceless pieces. This is Morning News Now.
Pony.
Yep, that'll be in your head the rest of the day. There you go. My Little Pony, one of the 2024 inductees into the Toy Hall of Fame. The Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, inducted 3 new toys yesterday, which are now displayed at the hall. The Today Show had the honor of revealing those 3 inductees out of the 12 finalists. My Little Pony is joined by Transformers and the card game Phase 10. Some of you might know all 3 toys were all massively popular in the 80s. Toys that have achieved iconic status, sustained popularity over the years, and encourage innovation. Those are the qualities that get you in the hall. Who picks the winners? Well, it's a committee of toy experts, which somehow includes me. Yeah. I've been voting on it for years. I have power,
so I blame
apparently,
you
when it
for
comes
Phase
to this.
10, which I've never heard of.
I've never heard of Phase 10 either. So I did vote for Transformers, which I think is a great choice. I also voted of the finalists for Balloon, because I think Balloon is long overdue. So
well, and I would
maybe
argue
next year.
that doesn't really sound like a toy, except for things are in it.
Stick is in there. Sand is in there.
I'm sorry.
So but it's all about imagination. You play with a stick. You make sand castles. So that's
the
argument. I did not vote for Sam.
Also, Sequence. I love Sequence. I didn't know that was in the running.
Sequence was in the running, so maybe in the future.
All right.
Go check out
Vote
Phase
for me,
10.
all right?
I've never heard of it.
Thanks, Joe. Finally this hour, we are taking a look at how one artist in Wisconsin is sparking joy across the country by taking something old and making it new again. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa has that story.
In this Milwaukee shop, stacked with millennial memorabilia, 31-year-old Ike Winter works without brushes, paints, or any standard art supplies.
This might be the coolest thing I've ever made.
Recreating childhood memories.
I gave you Tommy Pickles from Rugrats.
To the delight of millions.
If someone were to ask you, what do you do for a living? What would you say?
I just get to cut wood all day and listen to music, and that's my joy.
In the name of sustainability,
Here it is.
everything Winter uses is salvaged.
It was a salt box.
And if already painted, left unaltered.
This was a dresser, and then this was a piece of pallet. This was the lid of a piano. Dumpster diving is not the sexiest thing in the world.
Do you love doing it, though?
Yeah.
The son of a carpenter, Winter never attended art school or college. But his art has resonated far and wide. He even has a piece hanging at the New York Stock Exchange. And while many of his creations now sell for thousands, he gives away others for free.
Is that nice?
Perfecting the art of turning trash into treasure.
If I can have somebody and they're just randomly scrolling on social media and they see or hear stuff from their childhood and it brings back a simpler time, it just makes people feel good at the end of the day.
Maggie Vespa, NBC News, Milwaukee.
Gorgeous.
Blow of the dust there. I love it.
Yeah, that was really cool.
That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thanks for joining us on a Wednesday. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, face to face, a historic presidential sit down on the heels of an election like no other. President Biden set for a one-on-one meeting with his successor, President-elect Trump, in the Oval Office. It comes as Mr. Trump taps Fox News host Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense, a choice that's raising eyebrows in Washington. We've got team coverage as the president-elect wastes no time filling out his new administration. Red flag, a wildfire crisis engulfing the Northeast. Millions across the region grappling with bone-dry conditions and high winds. Emergency crews in New Jersey fighting to contain the deadly Jennings Creek fire that has already torched thousands of acres. And there may be no end in sight to the danger. We're on the ground with the very latest. We're also watching your wallet on this Wednesday morning with a fresh look at inflation in America. We're going to dig into the new numbers as consumers flock to those big retailers looking for holiday deals. And it's a stunning restoration effort more than 5 years in the making. We're going to have a jaw-dropping look inside the final preparations now underway as Paris's iconic Notre Dame Cathedral gets ready to shine again. We still remember the images from years ago to see it restored. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
All right, let's begin this hour in Washington. President-elect Trump set to return to the White House today for the first time since the end of his first term.
Mr. Trump will meet with President Biden in the Oval Office in their first face-to-face meeting since they debated over the summer. This comes as the president-elect announces a series of new picks to join his next administration. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander has the details.
Good morning to you. You can expect plenty of pleasantries to be exchanged today. The exact opposite of the relationship between these two over the last several years where they regularly traded insults. It is President-elect Trump's first time back in the White House since his defeat in 2020. He left office just before the inauguration. And it comes as Trump is rapidly rolling out new cabinet picks on his social media site, including one that even surprised some of his allies.
President Biden and President-elect Trump set to sit down in the Oval Office, their first face-to-face since Trump's historic election victory. Today's visit comes 4 years after Trump refused to host then-President-elect Biden. Trump's new administration is rapidly taking shape. The newest announcement catching some of Trump's allies off guard. Fox News personality Pete Hegseth tapped for defense secretary. Trump posting, "With Pete at the helm, America's enemies are on notice." Hegseth, who's appeared on Fox for a decade, is an Army National Guard veteran, an infantry officer who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. He would lead 1.3 million active duty troops. He's indicated how he'd shake up the military, arguing it focuses too much on diversity. Last week, discussing how he would, quote, course correct.
Any general that was involved, general, admiral, whatever, that was involved in any of the DEI woke, it's got to go.
Also saying he opposes women in combat roles.
It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated.
Trump also announcing billionaire Elon Musk and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy will lead a new Department of Government Efficiency, comparing its creation to the atomic bomb program, the Manhattan Project. Trump says Musk and Ramaswamy will provide advice from outside of the government. Musk, who's been an advisor to Trump since the election and frequent presence at his Mar-a-Lago club, runs companies that have billions of dollars in government contracts.
Elon thinks he can cut the costs of our government by $2 trillion.
Ramaswamy has campaigned on ending federal agencies, including the FBI and Department of Education. But it's unclear how much power the commission would have. And former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, an evangelical Christian for U.S. Ambassador to Israel. Huckabee strongly supports Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank.
There is no such thing as a West Bank. It's Judea and Samaria. There's no such thing as a settlement. They're communities.
President-elect Trump has announced some of his cabinet picks much faster this go-around than he did 8 years ago. Still, some could face potential roadblocks in the Senate that confirms nominees for the high-level positions. Trump, as you may have seen, is trying to avoid any possible delays like those that he faced in 2016. He's demanding Republican senators allow what they call recess appointments that would temporarily place his picks in office without a confirmation hearing or a Senate vote. Back to you.
All right, Peter, thank you.
Let's bring in retired Lieutenant Colonel Danny Davis to talk more about President-elect Trump's pick for defense secretary. He is a senior fellow and military expert at Defense Priorities and host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive. Good morning. Good to have you with us. As we just heard in Peter's piece, Pete Hegseth made some headlines for recent comments about the military when it comes to diversity, when it comes to women in combat. How is the defense community viewing this choice for this crucial senior role, especially since he has no real administrative experience, and now he would be in charge of the entire military?
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge to say the very least. And this choice makes sense on one level, and it's a bit of a head scratcher on another, even from the perspective of the Republican side. There's probably nobody more loyal to Trump and his vision, his America First vision, than Pete Hegseth. Of course, he's got a lot of combat experience of his own. He was in the military, so he understands how all of those things affect at the tip of the spear. But this is, in my view, the Secretary of Defense is the most challenging position on the entire cabinet because of the huge array of things that he has to do. He's got to set national security strategy. He's got to he's number one. He's the second in command of all of the forces, even above the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff. But he's also the principal advisor to the president. And what that means is that if the president is looking at anything, and I'll just hypothetically pick something like maybe the China-Taiwan issue and whether we should or shouldn't engage, he's got to be able to say, here's the objectives, here's what our forces could do, here's what they can't do, here are our limitations. So you have to really understand how the Defense Department is manned and staffed, and whether it's capable, and what our ammunition stocks are, et cetera. All those things come into play, and that is an enormous amount of pressure on anybody's shoulders.
Explain to us the background that defense secretaries typically come from, and then also tell us about the ultimate role this person plays.
Yeah, ordinarily you've seen like Secretary Austin, the current Secretary of Defense, somebody who was a general in the military. We've had a number of those, but very often it's come from senior political figures, folks who've been like senators or so, or in charge of large corporations, because this is an incredible, monstrosity of a bureaucracy that has got all kinds of, high expensive categories, things that you have to manage, obviously almost $1 trillion of a budget, but that you also have to be a diplomat and a politician, because we have a significant role internationally, like Secretary Austin right now. He's dealing with both friend and foe overseas. You've got to have a really good diplomatic head on your shoulder. Internally, you've got to be a good politician, because there's a lot. I worked in the Pentagon for about 3 years when I was on active duty, and I can assure you there's a lot of political things going on in there. You've got to be able to manage, the Army generals, the Air Force generals, the Navy generals, and all this internecine conflict that comes. Everybody's trying to posture, and you've got to be able to manage all that. And look, I understand that what Hegseth said on that clip you showed a minute ago, where he wants to come in and fire a bunch of generals. You can't make enemies on day one, so he's going to need a lot of help.
All right, Lieutenant Colonel Danny Davis, appreciate your perspective and your experience. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Well, another key figure for the new administration is set to be elected today. Senate Republicans will meet in Washington to vote for their new leader, replacing Mitch McConnell, who has served as majority and minority leader since 2007. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us from Washington with more on this. Hey, Ryan, good morning. What role will President-elect play in this process?
Yes, Savannah, Donald Trump at this point has yet to endorse a candidate in the race to replace longtime Republican leader Mitch McConnell. But there's no doubt that his presence in this leadership battle looms large. It will be a new era for Republicans on Capitol Hill. For the first time in a decade and a half, the Senate is set to pick a new leader.
Hopefully we get rid of Mitch McConnell pretty soon.
Current Republican leader Mitch McConnell, who often tangled with President-elect Donald Trump, is stepping away from his leadership post, opening the door to one of three potential candidates: Senator John Thune of South Dakota, Senator John Cornyn of Texas, or Senator Rick Scott from Florida.
I think I'm uniquely positioned to really help get the Trump agenda done.
Scott claims he's the most loyal to Donald Trump. He's running an insurgent campaign, fueled by support from conservative influencers like Elon Musk and kind words from Trump's daughter-in-law, Laura.
I certainly think that the Rick Scott would do an amazing job.
But none of those influencers have a vote, and the ballot is secret, which could favor longtime Senate leaders Cornyn and Thune. Thune is currently the #2 Senate Republican, who initially did not endorse Trump for president in 2024, but has since worked to get back in his good graces. Cornyn is a Senate veteran, serving since 2002, and has promised to open up the process to move the Trump agenda quickly. Most senators, like Eric Schmidt of Missouri, are keeping their decision private.
I want to make sure we're executing on the mandate we got last week and have an agenda that looks out for working families.
The new Senate majority will play a major role in fulfilling Trump's campaign promises. From tax cuts to immigration reform to judicial nominations, it must all come through the Senate, meaning this decision will be crucial to the new administration. And another important role for the Senate, the confirmation of the Trump cabinet. And while it only requires a simple majority, there could be some fights over some of the more controversial appointments that the president has said that he will make. Savannah, all three of these Senate candidates have said that they will work as quickly as they can to get those cabinet members confirmed.
All right, Ryan, thank you.
Now to the latest developments in U.S.-Israeli relations. The Biden administration announced on Tuesday it would not limit arms transfers to Israel after it threatened to do that 30 days ago. Looking ahead, as we mentioned moments ago, the incoming Trump administration has now picked Washington's next ambassador to Israel. NBC News chief international correspondent Richard Engel joins us now from the capital of Jordan with the latest. Richard, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. So the Biden administration gave Israel a pass. As you mentioned, the Biden administration, both secretaries of state and defense, issued this strongly worded letter a month ago threatening sanctions, threatening to limit the supply of U.S. weapons to Israel, which is critical for Israel's defense, critical for Israel's ability to pursue its now two wars, both in Lebanon and in Gaza, if more aid was not allowed into the Gaza Strip. But then at the 11th hour, the administration decided not to make good on its threats. All across the region, the administration, and I can watch it talking to leaders that I've known for quite some time now in the Middle East. People are moving beyond President Biden. They're looking squarely at President Trump, looking at his administration forward, and trying to figure out how they can work over the next 4 years.
Israel this morning says the ex-Arkansas governor, Mike Huckabee, tapped by President-elect Trump to be Washington's next ambassador, is a welcome choice.
I think he will be a great ambassador to Israel. He's very familiar with the facts on the ground.
It wasn't the only good news for Israel overnight. The Biden administration also backed down from a threat to reduce American military support unless Israel allowed more humanitarian aid into Gaza by a deadline that expired yesterday.
I would not view it as giving them a pass. We've seen some progress being made. We would like to see some more changes happen.
The UN and humanitarian organizations do not agree, warning that parts of Gaza are once again on the brink of famine. We joined a rare airdrop by the Jordanian military. The crates on the C-130 cargo plane contain some of the only food available to reach more than 2 million Gazans. And there they go, 8 tons of food and medicine, this time being dropped over southern Gaza. Floating down went olive oil, pasta, tomato sauce, and medical supplies. We filmed as the crowds below grew excited as they watched the chutes open. Many started to run, desperate to get whatever they could before it was gone. But 30-year-old Abdullah Maroof came back with an empty bag. It was a bust, he says, explaining that another Palestinian family got there first and then fired guns in the air so they could hoard everything for themselves. Law and order has collapsed after a year of war and siege. And this morning in Brussels, Secretary Blinken said the time has come for Israel to end the war in Gaza. He said that even by Israel's own definition of success, by the goals that Israel set out for itself, that it's time to wrap up the war, that those goals have been accomplished. Biden administration officials have said similar things in the past to no effect. Joe, Savannah.
All right, Richard Engel, thank you so much.
Well, now to the wildfires that are still raging across the Northeast as officials raise new concerns over the impact of the drought on the water supply. Today, red flag warnings have been reinstated for parts of New York and southern New England due to high winds and those dry conditions. And at least 9 fires are burning across the region.
The winds are making it harder for firefighters to gain control of the Jennings Creek fire. It has grown to more than 5,000 acres along the New Jersey-New York border. The area has not seen significant rain for weeks.
NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa joins us now from Monmouth County in New Jersey. Emily, good morning. So tell us about where you are, what you're seeing on the ground, like these signs of just how severe this drought is.
Yeah, so the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection is actually considering upgrading the water supply drought from a watch to a warning, and it is scenes like this that explain why. We are at the Manasquan Reservoir, and I shouldn't be walking where I am. This is about 50% of its full capacity. It typically is a popular spot for boating and fishing, capable of holding some 4+ billion gallons of water, and it is scenes like this plaguing across the Northeast. The Northeast is currently experiencing its worst drought since 2002. The situation here in New Jersey is even more dire. Parts of the state are seeing less than 8 inches of typical average rainfall for this time of year, and it is putting an immense amount of pressure on various things, including farmers. October was the driest month on record for the Garden State, guys.
So, Emily, the Jennings Creek fire in New Jersey, it's been burning since Saturday. People can smell it all across the New York region. What are the conditions the firefighters are up against? How goes the fight against this specific fire?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it varies from day to day. You can see a little bit of a breeze moving through here. We are seeing some of the wind gusts calm down, but there are still some states in the Northeast region experiencing red flag warnings. The New Jersey Forest Fire Service has responded to more than 500 wildfires since October. I spoke with a family who saw one come right to their doorstep. Take a listen here.
I walked all the way back as far as I could go, and it is burnt all the way back. So from our house to where the line is, but past the line, it's all burnt.
A fire of particular concern, as you guys mentioned, the Jennings Creek fire. It spans from North Jersey into South New York, about 5,000 acres, 2,700 of them in South New York. That is more than the state typically sees in terms of acreage that is burned throughout the entire state for an entire year. So really unusual circumstances. And that is steep terrain that firefighters are having to contend with. They are on foot, also using helicopters. Governor Kathy Hochul calling it a dire situation and declaring a state burn ban. Guys.
Emily, thank you.
With Emily's report in mind, let's get a closer look at the forecast with your Morning News Now weather.
Yeah, Angie Lastman is here with the latest on those red flag warnings and fire danger. Hey, Angie.
Hey, good morning, guys. You're exactly right. Still the red flag warnings and fire danger across the same regions that we've been looking at for concern with concerning situations here over the past couple of days. As far as the fire weather is concerned, we've got Boston down to Georgetown still under these alerts. That includes 35 million people. You heard Emily mention the winds are a little lighter today, but they're not gone completely. So that accompanied by the low humidity and, of course, that really dry vegetation that we're tapping into, those are all going to set us up for kind of the same story that we've been talking about for days and days. And I know a lot of folks are hoping we've got some rain in the picture across that region. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we've got much coming our way. We will, however, see parts of the Midwest stretching down to the Mississippi Valley tap into some rain here as the system is on the move to the east. This is going to help alleviate some of the drought that we see across the Midwest and across the Mid-Atlantic as the next couple of days go by. The problem is most of that rain fizzles out before it makes it to the Northeast, where we really could use it, the New York to Boston area. That's going to remain still needing some of that rain that just doesn't look like it's in sight, at least for the short term. In the short term, though, across the Mississippi Valley, we're concerned with some flooding. We've got the saturated soils from rains over the past couple of weeks, especially across Louisiana and Mississippi. Alexandria, Jackson, that's where we're looking for the best chance today and into the evening hours tonight to see some of that flooding occur. So heads up there, but this stretches up into the Tennessee Valley as well. So watch for that. Out west, we've got the winter alerts, Mount Shasta, we've got Lake Tahoe region. This is going to be something that we see last for the next couple of days. Great for snowboarders and skiers. Those ski resorts are happy with this additional snow they're going to get, but problematic in some of these spots that have burn scars. Out west, we, of course, know that we battle the fires as well, and we've got some of those areas that are going to be more prone to some flooding with some of that heavy rain working through over the next couple of days. As we get through your day today, the heavy rain draped across Washington, Oregon, stretching east. Even tomorrow, as the system pushes to the inland, into the inland areas, we're still going to see some lingering showers, so some additional rain, maybe some additional snow in that area as well. Meanwhile, we are watching the tropics as well. In the Caribbean, we've got an area of disturbed weather that has a really good chance of developing. We'll probably see this next system happen in the next day or so. Either way, the conditions are prime for it. So really warm water, low shear, that means strengthening is expected. The good news for right now for the United States and especially the Gulf Coast is that we've got a high pressure sitting in the Gulf of Mexico. That basically blocks anything from moving into that region as far as the low is concerned. Now, that high eventually moves to the east. It pushes out of the Gulf Coast, and that means that there's some space for that low to work across the potentially Yucatan and closer to the Gulf Coast of the United States. What exactly that means for us, well, we'll just have to wait and see here as we get into early next week. Just a reminder, though, that the hurricane season is not over just yet. November 30th is the last day.
Dealing with a lot right now between that and fires. Thank you, Angie.
Of course.
There's much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including the iconic Paris landmark set to rise from the ashes in the next few weeks, more than 5 years after a devastating fire.
But first, after the break, we're going to take a closer look at President-elect Trump's controversial plan for the southern border and how some big city Democrats are responding. That's next.
We are back with exclusive details about the incoming Trump administration's highly controversial mass deportation plan.
Mr. Trump and his team are considering locations across the U.S. to expand immigrant detention centers. Their goal is to double the current availability of ICE detention beds, which would be more than 80,000.
NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley is here with more on this. Hey, Julia, good morning. So this was one of President-elect's biggest promises on the campaign trail and something that we heard a lot about from voters as well. Tell us what you're hearing about this operation.
Right. Well, Savannah, every time Donald Trump mentioned having the largest deportation operation in U.S. history, there were a lot of questions. How would he carry this out? How would he get the funding? We don't exactly know if it still has practical legs yet. We at least know what they're putting down on paper. We're getting some more details about what they're considering. And the first step is to expand immigration detention so that when they arrest people, not people who have come across the border, but undocumented immigrants who are living in the United States, they'll have a place to put them before they're put on planes for deportation. We understand they're looking across the country as they look to double capacity. They're looking around some major metropolitan areas as well. They're looking at Denver, Miami, Los Angeles, along the I-95 corridor between New York, D.C., and Philadelphia, Chicago. These are a lot of areas that, as you know, do have heavily Democratic-leaning governments who are in charge of them. So you could see some backlash there. But basically, they're looking to see if they have space available through existing ICE detention centers, or if they could get space within county jails, or if they need to quickly build temporary facilities. They probably don't have enough time, as I understand it, to build brick and mortar. So these could look like tents outside of these major metropolitan areas to hold migrants.
So, Julia, I mean, several of the major cities on Trump's list, these are Democratic strongholds. They have sanctuary policies in place. How would that affect these plans, and just how are Democratic leaders responding to this?
You know, I asked some of my sources on the story what will happen if it's in a sanctuary city. And they said, well, you have to remember, sanctuary cities, all that means is that their local law enforcement doesn't hand over immigrants that they encounter during law enforcement operations to ICE. But it doesn't mean that ICE themselves can't come in and set up a new place. If they have a contract and they rent out this building through a contract, they can do that. A lot of times they use private prisons, and those do exist in blue states already. They make arrests in California already. But would the visibility spark protests? And I think that's a key question. I think a lot of it depends on who is inside. They say they're going to start with criminals, but another thing we learned in our reporting is that they want to restart family detention, holding migrants with their children. That's something the Biden administration ended. So if you see a lot of families, I think there could be a sharp response from blue cities if they see that in their own backyards.
Julia, you mentioned that there's a lot of questions still about the practicality of this, but what do we know about how the Trump team plans to carry out this operation, or who's going to pay for it?
Well, the federal government would have to pay for it, taxpayers, and they would also be leaning heavily on the resources of local law enforcement. Trump has talked about getting the military involved. It's unclear if he could legally do that. It depends on what he enacts and if that stands up in court. He would also be depending on local sheriffs and police to go out and try to find migrants and arrest them because they simply wouldn't have the manpower. But as we're looking at how they want to double ICE detention capacity, there's probably an understanding there that they think if they have, a full Republican House, which as we know hasn't been called yet, but it's leaning that direction. They already have a Republican Senate. Perhaps they'll be able to get more money for this operation. But a lot of it, I think, will come down to how the public is receiving it as well, and if they think that they have the political headwinds to go as big as they want to go.
All right, Julia, thank you.
In Paris, the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral is now less than a month away from reopening to the public, more than 5 years after a major fire left it devastated. NBC News correspondent Kelly Kobiea joins us now from the City of Light with all the latest details. Kelly, good morning.
Good morning to you, Joe. Yeah, this really is crunch time for the workers here at Notre Dame Cathedral, putting those final pieces in place before the grand reopening December 7th. And we're told the public is about to see this cathedral in a whole new light. This morning, Our Lady of Paris, one step closer to opening its doors again. And the Companions Choir's 80 members holding final rehearsals ahead of the big day. Set to perform in one of the solemn masses at the week-long festivities next month to celebrate Notre Dame's rebirth. These amateur singers are also the craftspeople and artisans who helped repair the cathedral over the last 5 years, like art restorer Felicia Lamprecht.
Was this project different? It's extraordinary. I don't think in my lifetime I would have possibility to work in such total renovation.
The blaze back in April 2019 was devastating. Flames reduced the beloved old cathedral's ancient oak ceiling to ash, tearing through its interior and spectacularly toppling the spire, a cherished Paris landmark. Craig was here for the aftermath of the tragedy.
Paris, how much this cathedral means.
Now, 5 years on, France is racing toward the cathedral's grand reveal. Its vast lead roof installed. These wooden hangers that helped secure the fragile structure after the fire removed, following years of delicate, laborious restorations. And last Friday, a taste of the much-missed Notre Dame bells, sounding across Paris for the first time since that inferno silenced them. Rescued from the catastrophic fire, now repaired and ready to ring again, alongside these special 3 Olympic bells, delivered to Notre Dame last week, rang by American superstar gold medalists at the Olympic Stadium during the Paris Summer Games. Notre Dame's meticulous revamp, a well-kept secret, but we were shown a tiny hint last July. Underneath the spire, the intricate oak frame.
We're at the base of the spire, 1,000 pieces of wood carefully put together.
The spire's wood base and oak ceiling complete. More than a century of soot cleaned from these murals and stained glass windows.
They're just stunning. They're so bright.
The colossal restoration effort now in its final stages. A sacred space reborn, getting ready to receive the world again.
And there's a very special procession scheduled for this Friday. The 14th century Virgin Mary statue, which survived the fire inside Notre Dame Cathedral, will be paraded through the streets and ending up here at Notre Dame, taking its rightful place inside the cathedral ahead of the reopening December 7th. Joe and Savannah, as I mentioned, the restoration work inside is pretty much complete, and we're told that it looks completely different from before the fire. That stone has been brought back to its original color from when the cathedral was first built more than 800 years ago. So it just looks completely different. Light, bright, and all of those colors just popping, glowing. It should be quite a sight to see December 7th, guys.
Cannot wait. All
Really
right.
can't wait. Fabulous.
Kelly, thank you so much. All right, coming up, today does mark 2 years since the murders of 4 college students shook a small Idaho town to its core.
Now a community is coming together to mourn those gone too soon as their accused killer awaits trial. We'll take you there next.
Welcome back. It has now been 2 years since 4 students from the University of Idaho were murdered. And as families of the victims continue to wait for a trial, the community is focusing on honoring those students while trying to process what happened. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz is in Idaho. Liz, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning to you. Yeah, what you see behind me here is a healing garden that the university has set up. There are fresh flowers and candles here to honor the victims. I spoke to one student who said that while the community is trying to heal, the sun just doesn't shine quite as brightly here on campus as it did before 2 years ago today.
This morning marks 2 years since the brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students. And for the families of the victims, 2 years of grieving as they await a trial and closure.
Does it get easier?
Nah, not really. You don't get over losing a kid.
Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle were killed in the early morning hours in their off-campus home in the small town of Moscow. A surviving roommate saying she saw a male figure wearing black clothes and a mask walking towards the back door. Autopsy results showing the victims were likely attacked with a large knife and died from multiple stab wounds. It took 7 weeks before police made an arrest in Pennsylvania, charging then 28-year-old criminology student Brian Koberger with their murders.
Your Honor, Brian is innocent.
A judge has entered a not guilty plea on Koberger's behalf, with a trial finally scheduled for August after a series of delays, including a venue change.
Justice is slow, super slow. But as long as we get it, it's worth the wait.
State versus Koberger.
At a recent hearing in Boise, a judge granting Koberger's request to wear street clothes in court as his attorneys push to take the death penalty off the table.
The death penalty really ought to be abolished.
Meantime, on the University of Idaho campus this morning, students still feeling the impact.
The fact that 4 of your peers were murdered by someone, it's hard to kind of grasp that, and I don't know if I still fully have even 2 years later.
In an attempt to heal, the university tearing down the house where the murders happened.
This is what it now looks like here. Weeds are growing where the home once stood. All that's left, this small memorial, a reminder that the lives lost here have not been forgotten.
and in Kaylee's hometown, these benches recently dedicated in their honor. Steve Gonzalez sharing memories of his daughter, including her love of adventure, travel, and even true crime.
You missed her spirit, her gumption.
Definitely, her spirit, her gumption. She definitely brought an aspect to our family that is missing.
Now, Kaylee's family says that they plan to spend today doing some of the things that Kaylee loved doing the most. We're also hearing from Ethan's family. They say that as they heal, the foundation they've set up in his honor has already given out $50,000 in scholarship money. And with the trial now set for 9 months from now, the families are hoping that by this time next year, they'll finally have some justice and hopefully some closure. Joe.
All right, Liz Kreutz, thank you so much. We have NBC News legal analyst Danny Cevallos here for more on all this. Danny, good morning. So let's pick it up there. Kohberger was arrested 6 weeks after the murders. We're marking 2 years now, not set to go to trial till next August, so it could be nearly 3 years later. Why is this taking so long?
You know, we cover a lot of cases in federal courts where things move much faster, especially when they're cases of note and that can be moved along quickly. But in your standard state court criminal, particularly a murder case, it's not that unusual for cases to take years to get to trial. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they move along relatively quickly. But take a look at this case in particular. The Idaho court system has done a great job of posting every filing in this case. And what you see when you look at it is it takes almost 30 seconds just to scroll through all of them. There have to be at least 1,000 different motions and oppositions. These are two sides, the prosecution and defense, that have argued bitterly over every single issue. And the previous judge in the previous venue really allowed them and heard arguments. You can go back and see on YouTube the oral arguments. And this is a judge that lets everybody say their piece completely, which is good for some things, for being heard. But on the other hand, it's not always the most efficient way. So no surprise this case has taken and will take upwards of 3 years to come to trial.
And remind us the impacts that some of those things they've argued over can have, like the new judge, like the change of venue.
The change of venue was a monumental win for the defense. Not really substantively, but let me just give you an example. In the vast majority of state criminal courthouses, the DA's office is either in the same building as the courthouse or it's across the street. Okay. In Philadelphia County, where I practiced for many years, it was the longest walk I knew of. It was about 2 blocks for the DAs to walk in the cold to the courthouse. Boo-hoo for them. Because here's the thing. When you're on trial, you can't understate the home field advantage. For a defense attorney like me, think about having to do all the work you normally do, but instead you got to pick it all up and go to a room where you usually don't have Wi-Fi. You might not be able to have your phone. You just have a big wooden table with nothing else. No fax machine, no nothing. It's challenging. It's a lot more helpful if your office is 1 floor upstairs and you're the DA. So huge, huge advantage for the defense, which is used to practicing. And again, this is the public defender's office, so they may have had some of the same advantages, but you're taking the prosecution out of their home field advantage. Now, unfortunately, you're taking a lot of the witnesses and the families out of that same advantage. They all have to travel, right. But it is going to be a real challenge for prosecutors who are used to walking a matter of feet to the courthouse and bringing, whatever they need for that moment, as opposed to having to now drive many miles to get to that same courthouse. So the venue change, a very big win for the defense, but it's not something, it's a subtle win. You'll see it in minor things. You may not even be able to perceive it. Right. It's just a very big strategic win for the defense.
Are fax machines still popular?
I knew as soon as I said that I was dating myself.
I mean, some courthouses are very dated, so they might be using fax machines.
I hope we can clean that up in post, because right. I knew fax machine.
A serious question here, though. Kohberger's had a not guilty plea entered on his behalf, but just this week, his defense team basically arguing death penalty should be off the table. Why are they arguing that now? What is their argument?
This is a long shot argument because the death penalty has been upheld as constitutional, including in Idaho. But if you're the Kohberger defense team, and look, these are two parties that file everything on the court docket. You can see it for yourself. This is just another argument to preserve that argument if they have to make it in appellate court. And that's something you have to do as a defense attorney. Preserve your arguments, and that means putting a lot of things on the record just to make sure that the appellate court doesn't say that you waived those issues. So I think even the defense knew they were going to lose at the trial court on this issue, but they're just preserving it for that eventual appeal, which is, I guess you would say, a probable appeal process.
As you mentioned, just lots of motions in this case. So
lots of motions.
All right, Danny, thank you so much.
Well, in Kansas City, new details are coming out this morning about burglaries impacting two of football's biggest stars. According to police reports, Super Bowl champions Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce were robbed in break-ins that happened just hours apart. Here's NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk with the details.
It's unclear if there are any suspects or if any arrests have been made in connection to the burglaries last month, but we do know that authorities are taking the crimes committed against two of the NFL's biggest superstars seriously.
This morning, an investigation is underway after an alleged burglary at the home of Kansas City star quarterback Patrick Mahomes. According to a police report obtained by NBC News, deputies received a call shortly after midnight on October 6th, saying the Mahomes residence had been broken into. The report does not identify Mahomes by name, but the address matches public records for the three-time Super Bowl champ. The break-in happened just one day before the Chiefs defeated the Saints in a Monday night showdown. Mahomes lives on an 8-acre estate in Belton, Missouri, about 30 miles outside Kansas City.
And I was like, man, I'm going to be here. I might as well build the exact house I want.
The construction of Mahomes' mansion recently featured in the Netflix series Quarterback.
I'm excited that I can say I'm a part of Chiefs Kingdom forever now, and that house kind of embodies that.
Chiefs superstar tight end Travis Kelce's home in Leawood, Kansas, was also allegedly broken into. According to a police report, a rear pedestrian door worth $1,000 was damaged and $20,000 in cash stolen. Local police would not comment on the situation, saying the agency only publicly comments on homicides and car crashes. But a spokesperson pointed NBC News to a 911 call log map showing someone reported a burglary on October 8th at a home on the same block as Kelce's. Earlier this year, the tight end said he stopped getting mail at his home as a precaution.
The one thing you don't realize that when somebody posts your house online, that everybody now has your address and people just send stuff to your house.
According to Kelce's big brother Jason, the Chiefs star had to move for safety reasons thanks to a new level of fame from his relationship with Taylor Swift.
The Taylor world and the pop culture world, that's a whole different level. It's a new demographic that wasn't there before.
NBC News has reached out to representatives for both Mahomes and Kelce. We have not heard back. In the case of the Mahomes robbery, the county sheriff declined further comment, citing the active investigation. Back to you.
All right, Stephanie, thank you. Coming up, new inflation numbers are out just this morning.
But what does the data say about the strength of America's economy heading into that busy holiday shopping season? We're going to break it down with our experts next.
We are back with some new economic data.
Yeah, so inflation rose by 0.2% in October. That's month to month. And then 2.6% year over year. That was in line with expectations. Here to help us digest these numbers, NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung and our senior business correspondent Christine Romans. Good morning to both of you.
Yeah, Christine, let's start with you. Give us a rundown of these numbers and just your reaction.
It shows you that inflation picked up a little bit from September to October. After months and months and months of inflation cooling, this is inflation heating up a little bit. Now, 1 month is not something to be alarmed over, but it does show you that this is a reversal of the trend that we've been seeing. And you dig inside these numbers, and still housing is a big piece of this. Food prices rose a little bit. Gas prices basically steady. But something to really watch here, because the Fed's been cutting interest rates, right? Because it thought it had inflation under control. This is a reminder that the job isn't done quite yet.
Yeah, and Christine, with the holiday season nearly upon us, or according to some, upon us, what does this all mean for the cost of just those essential items heading into this busy shopping time?
I mean, prices are still higher, right? There are inflation rates. That's something that, economists and journalists talk about. But then there are price levels, and price levels are still higher than they were 4 years ago. You look at eggs, you look at gas prices are 60% higher today than they were 4 years ago. Housing is higher. Eggs are higher. Grocery prices are higher. So this is really what drove people at the election, right? The idea that they want 2019 price tags and we have 2024 price tags. And even with inflation cooling overall, those prices are higher than they were before the pandemic.
So, Christine, in some ways, I guess it remains to be seen what it means for our wallets when it comes to, does this impact any of the next interest rate cuts? But if you're managing these credit card bills, mortgages, what's this mean?
I think the bottom line here is that 6 months ago, we would have thought that interest rates would be coming down much, much faster, and that hasn't been happening. It's been very slow and cautious, and this is another reason why the Fed can be slow and cautious about cutting those key mortgage interest rates. And, of course, that means that your credit card, borrowing costs, your car borrowing costs, your home loan borrowing costs, those are going to stay a little bit elevated here.
All right, speaking of cutting, Christine, we are cutting you free. Brian, let's bring you in here from the big board. Walk us through just how these numbers do actually compare with previous months.
Yeah, well, look, as Christine was just talking about, yes, that number on a yearly basis is a tick up, a bit of a reversal. So the last read that we got of year-over-year inflation, again, how much did prices rise over the 12-month period, rose to 2.6% in the month of October. So that's a little bit up from the 2.4% we had seen in the month of September. When we break it down by category, you can see right here, these are now the monthly changes that we're looking at here, right? So this is from the August to September period. If we look at food over September to October, prices increased again by 0.2%. Energy prices, though, and this was good news, basically went flat between September and October, largely due to declines in gasoline prices at the pump. But this is the big concerning one that we're going to have to watch is shelter costs. This is the biggest one for most Americans. Mortgage payments, rental payments, that went up by 0.4% in the month of October. Again, that's a really big cost for Americans. That's the one that we're going to have to watch.
Brian, also, we've got one more Federal Reserve meeting this year. Christine touched on this. It's mid-December. We know the Fed cut interest rates last week. But what is an expectation that this inflation report, the impact it could have there? What are we expecting?
Yeah, well, if you rewind to just kind of that chart that I showed you, again, it ticked up to 2.6%. The Federal Reserve really wants to target inflation around here. This is 2%. So you can see we've been kind of coming down, certainly from the peak of around 9% inflation in the summer of 2022, which isn't on this chart. But basically, since essentially the summer of last year, we've kind of been going sideways here. So, yeah, people have described this as the last mile of inflation, maybe call it the last 2 or 3 miles of inflation. But the Fed, because they still see inflation above target, they want to keep interest rates relatively high, although they say with concerns about potentially unemployment rising, they want to alleviate some of the pressures on those borrowing costs. That's the reason why they're expected to likely cut interest rates into perhaps the end of this year and even the beginning of next year. But again, they don't want to cut by too much because they don't want inflation to accelerate from here.
And that's the question, Brian. If interest rates are going down and inflation is still not going down as much, is there anything else out there that we expect would lower inflation?
Yeah, well, I mean, which, by the way, the Federal Reserve is cutting interest rates, but they are still relatively elevated over a historical period. So that's the reason why they still believe they can cut interest rates while still doing the job of taking inflation down. But again, where is that sweet spot right in the middle? That's a real tightrope for the Federal Reserve that they're going to have to try to figure out based on the data, not just the inflation report, but the jobs report, which we'll get another read on in about 2 to 3 weeks.
All right, Brian, thank you.
Staying on your wallet, there is some turbulence in the air as Spirit Airlines reportedly flies toward bankruptcy.
CNBC Silvana Hanau has that in other money news. Hey, Silvana.
Hey, Savannah. Hey, Joe. Good morning. Yes, so Spirit Airlines is reportedly preparing to file for bankruptcy within just weeks after merger talks with Frontier broke down. The Wall Street Journal says the low-cost airline is in talks on a plan that will have support from most of its creditors. Spirit has been burning through cash despite strong travel demand, failing to report a profit over the past year and a half. It's been looking to cut costs, including furloughing pilots and selling planes. Dogecoin spiking briefly after President-elect Trump formally names Elon Musk and former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy to lead the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. The cryptocurrency jumping nearly 20% last night before pulling back. It's been a big winner in the market's post-election rally, more than doubling since Election Day. And flying cars are very close to becoming reality. Chinese automaker XPeng is now taking orders in Australia for the X2 electric vertical takeoff and landing car after unveiling it this past weekend. The vehicle claims to offer a range of 30 minutes of flying time on a single charge, seats 2, and has a top speed of 80 miles per hour. It's priced at $200,000, but has yet to be approved for use by the local authorities. So
it feels necessary for that step before you fork over $200,000. But yeah. All right, Savannah, thank you. Coming up, it was a heartwarming homecoming arriving just in time for Veterans Day earlier this week.
After the break, how the LA Rams helped give one young fan an experience he'll never forget. That's next. Welcome back. People magazine has named John Krasinski as this year's sexiest man alive. You, of course, know this actor. He's got a breakthrough role as the lovable Jim Halpert in the hit NBC series The Office. And he went on to star in several shows and movies, including Jack Ryan and A Quiet Place, which he also co-wrote and directed. Krasinski says he had an immediate blackout when he got the news, saying he thought that maybe he was being punked. Well, get this, before the announcement, Krasinski's wife, you also know her, actress Emily Blunt, she said she would wallpaper the house with the cover if he got it. I mean, Emily, prove it.
No kidding. I want to see that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
About him?
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Okay.
What do you think?
I used to always be told I looked like him, and then he got ripped, and that stopped. So it's more motivation for me to work out. No, I'm saying I might have been if I had followed his path of nutrition and fitness.
I can totally see it. I'm looking at the giant picture we have there. Yeah, I see it.
Congrats, John. All right, finally this hour, a special surprise. The LA Rams made Veterans Day unforgettable for one of their fans at their game against the Dolphins Monday night. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch shows us how.
Please welcome Captain Vega home!
This hug was 6 months in the making. Marine Captain Justin Vega surprising his 8-year-old son Leo after a deployment to Japan.
Ladies and gentlemen, please turn your attention to the field to recognize our season ticket member of the game.
That special moment pulled off at the Rams-Dolphins game Monday, with help from Leo's grandmother.
We're so thrilled to have you. And it looks like you brought a very special guest. Who do you have with you?
Oh, this is my grandson, Leo. He's a big fan, and his dad is serving overseas right now.
Leo and a stadium full of fans watching his helicopter pilot dad up on the big screen, seemingly thousands of miles away.
The Marines and I in Okinawa are working super hard, but I hope you guys are having a blast. I hope the Rams are winning, and I'll be home soon. Say hi to Rampage for me.
But when the video ends, the big reveal.
Leo, turn around.
Well, I was kind of terrified, and it was a big moment. Obviously, I haven't seen him in 6 months. I just wanted him to be excited.
That precious moment stealing the show on social media. In the stadium.
Biggest roar of the night thus far.
And even on ESPN's broadcast.
We salute our veterans everywhere. I can't look at that stuff. It'll make me cry, man. That's the best.
Leo and his dad, who usually have to communicate on FaceTime, now together again, just in time for the holidays.
I feel excited and I was shocked.
On a Veterans Day, the two will likely never forget. Jesse Kirsch, NBC News.
Very cute. Now on to more pressing matters.
Let's take it away. Let's take it away. Roosevelt with the jib camera. We have to show you this. There.
Is that?
You should do a turtleneck every once in a while.
I wore one yesterday. I'm actually wearing one this afternoon.
You were here. I'm like, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I see it.
Let us know what you think.
I love how Joe's like, I'm the sexiest
Balls in your court.
Is what I'm hearing.
This hour morning news now.
Stay with us, the news continues.
Oh, it's a horrible shot.
Right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.